Chasm Converses.
Hello listeners, welcome to Chasm Converses, the place where I discover, meet and talk to creative people and artists from all over the world. Firstly, RCW Mean Street Mayhem is now available to watch on YouTube. See some of the best and newest upstarts in Australian professional wrestling, as well as my re-debut against Hugh Beauty. And don't forget, this Saturday, RCW presents Heavy is the Crown. Be there as Chris Basso defends the RCW Grand Championship against Matt Hayter, and the most dominant force in Australian wrestling, Delta, wrestles her last match in Australia against her brother, Dean Brady. Ticket link available through the Riot City Wrestling socials. And now, onto my guest for this week. I have Declan Boss, a musician based in Australia who's been playing in bands for over 15 years. He has a brain full of experience, and in this episode, I pick it to the best of my ability. From playing in bands such as No 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 and PTL, to now creating his own solo project, Fast Company. Declan has an ear and eye for being a creative musician, as well as being an incredibly down-to-earth person. You can stream his newest track, Take the Money and Run, right now, wherever you listen to your music. But right now, let's jump in to the conversation. Declan Boss, welcome to Chasm Converses.
Thank you very much for having me.
So cool to see you, man. I realized that while I was planning this talk, and I was going through all the stuff that you have done, we have so much to cover today. Like, there's so much that we've got to talk about and discuss. So I reckon this is going to be a real fun-filled episode for sure. So I would love to start off by asking you, in general, when it comes to creativity and all that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to music, because obviously music is almost like your big sort of, I guess, creative asset that you have. What's something that you love about being creative in the environment that you have?
I mean, I've sort of always been like the kind of guy who's, I've always wanted to make stuff. I've always wanted to do something that was like, started from nothing and just have fun with it. Like, so I guess, I try and look at my environment in a way that can sort of, give me ideas. And, it's, I guess a good way to put it is like, when you're like listening to a song and you sort of like imagine like a music video for it. I kind of, apply that to like everything.
Hell
like,
yeah.
I'll hang out with like, my skater friends and they'll like look at it like a ledge and be like, oh yeah, I could like, do like a really cool big spin off this or whatever. And it's like, I, have always tried to apply that sort of mentality to like everything.
That's sick, dude. I love that. That's like a really good idea. I always, especially when it comes to like, creating videos and like imagery out of songs and that kind of thing. I always do that as well. A lot of times my images don't like come into I guess life because I can't really create them and put them into video form. You can, however, because you are a very good videographer and you create heaps and heaps of videos for different songs and all the rest of it, don't you?
I wouldn't say heaps. I mean, it's something I've sort of always been into. Like, I've been messing around with cameras and stuff since I was pretty young, but I haven't really done anything, proper until I started, being in bands. And not necessarily like music videos and the like, but, whenever we played a show, like I'd just bring a camera with us and like would more sort of film like the stuff we did before and after shows rather than the show itself. And then, when it got a bit more serious, when I started, taking bands and stuff a bit more seriously, like when I was an adult, then it sort of, got into, that sort of music video territory and all that sort of stuff. When I sort of realized like, oh, I can do this. Like, this isn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, or this isn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. It's just, anyone can sort of do it. And realizing that was kind of a big thing for me,
Yeah, 100%. And like the cool thing about, I guess, the two of us is like, we've both been in our respective bands and obviously gone in and out of bands as well. Obviously, we had a tour together with No X5, Paper Sunsets. That's been brought up a few times in this podcast because obviously I've had Dylan on and I've had Lukey on as well. So that's always been a fun little topic of discussion. I guess we could talk a little bit about that. What was your favorite sort of thoughts and memories from our little tour that we did together?
It's actually funny you bring that up because I was thinking about that last night. And I
love
remember,
that.
well, I remember I'd never heard of Paper Sunsets before.
Yeah.
And, when we played the shows, I remember watching you guys and thinking, because you guys opened both nights. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, fuck, these guys should have headlined. These guys should have headlined.
Oh, hell yeah. It's so kind. So kind.
But that tour was so much. Thank you. But that tour was like so much fun for me, man. Like, and I listened to Dylan's episode recently. And I don't want to echo too much of what he said, but like, I seriously think about that all the time. I watch that video pretty regularly. And it's like, I always tell people that story of like Dylan falling through the balcony. Like,
Yeah.
there's, I don't know if you've watched the video back recently, but there's a bit where like,
I have actually, but
a bit where like
yeah.
Liam's filming me and he's like trying so hard to talk, but he can't because he's just like laughing through like every second word. And it just like that kind of encapsulates the whole thing. Like the whole thing was just, it was pretty like sloppily thrown together, but it was so much fun. Like, and I would kill to do that sort of thing again.
100%.
It's a real shame that, touring is so expensive these days. Like, and even, I mean, I know that was only a couple of years ago. And like, I think by the end of it, didn't we only end up making like $30 between like 4 bands or something?
Something like that. It wasn't a huge amount of money. It was more the memories that we got from it, which is like, pretty ironic, really. Like, it's the memories that we got from it rather than the money and the stuff that we actually like, brought back from it. But yeah, because I did go back and I watched it after I did the episode with Dylan. And yeah, I remembered the whole King of the Road thing and like the point system and that sort of thing. I forgot all about that because Dylan had just accumulated so many in such a little time that it didn't really matter.
Yeah, Dylan was definitely king of the road that weekend.
Oh man, it was awesome. But either way, besides that, we've crossed paths before, we've done the touring, that sort of thing. Very, very exciting. I would love to know, because obviously in that episode as well, we went to Whyalla and stuff, and you're originally from Whyalla. I'd love to know when it came to you, like growing up and that sort of thing, who your influences were in the creative field, whether that was like, in video work or whether that was in music.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of influenced by a lot of different stuff as a kid. I didn't really get into music until I was like a teenager. Like I was always around music. Like, my dad was always in bands. My brother was always in bands. But it wasn't something I really cared about until I was, maybe 12 or 13. Music anyway. Like the first band I ever loved was Rage Against the Machine, and they're still like one of my favorite bands. So, Tom Morello is probably like the reason I play guitar. So I definitely look up to him. But, before I was into music, I was, into video and stuff like that. And also like I was really into video games as a kid. Not so much now, but I guess I took a lot of my inspiration from, I'm really big into like, first person shooters and stuff. Guys like, John Romero and John Carmack, like the guys who made Doom, they're pretty influential to me because like, again, it has that sort of very DIY like ethos of it was just 2 guys, messing around on their computers and they made this game that made like millions of dollars. I guess someone else I looked up to as a kid, maybe a bit controversial these days, but would be Bam Margera. Like,
all right, Jackass, right?
Huge Jackass fan. Yeah, huge Jackass fan, and like,
sick.
People can say that that's lowbrow, but like, and I guess to a certain degree it is, but like at the same time, like he had a record label, he had his own like live music venue, and the initial like CKY videos, he was just shooting them on like home level like camcorders. Like he did that. Again, it all comes back to that like sort of DIY like ethos behind it. I guess that's what inspires me more than anything.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I loved watching all the Jackass stuff back in the day, and again, like his were always very kind of, I guess, memorable as well. And so it is difficult, like, especially if someone has like, if there's a bad opinion or there's a bad rap for someone who like that in future times or whatever, it's hard to kind of shake, the stuff that they did back in the day, which obviously was inspiring all the rest of it as well. So that's like one of those weird things. But yeah, I love that you brought up Bam and Jackass and stuff, because like, fuck, that was some good shit back in the day. I'm watching Jackass 3D and just losing my shit in the cinema.
Well, yeah, I actually went back and watched them all recently with my fiance, and like, I just forgot how good it all was.
Yeah,
like it's so dumb, but at the same time, it's so much fun. And which is exactly, to circle back to like that tour video, like it's the same thing. It's so stupid, but it's like it's just fun. Like, who cares?
Dude, exactly right. And like, I love like it's like how much the human body can really kind of take, like, because they do so much stupid shit. And like, they've all had so many fucking surgeries and hospital visits and whatever, but it's kind of like, they've got things like a little bit wrong with them now, but like they're still alive, they're still kicking and that kind of stuff. And it's like all that shit they went through is like, it obviously hurt as shit, but they're still alive and they're still doing their thing. So it's a real like testament to, what the human body can be put through. And also like the mindset that you've got to be able to, just fucking jump off a fucking hill in a shopping cart or some shit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's on that topic, like I was saying earlier, like I was I've been shooting videos and stuff since I was a kid. Like I actually went back recently and found my version of like CKY that me and my friends made, and I like edited the whole thing, and like I did, like it has like a soundtrack, it has like an intro sequence, it's all color graded. And I haven't spoken to many of the guys who like I made it with in like 10 years, because we did it when we were like 14.
Yeah.
And one of the people I made it with was my cousin. I seriously hadn't spoken to him in almost 10 years, and just out of nowhere, like I just sent him like a Google Drive link with that video on Instagram, and he was just like, "What the fuck? Like, where did you find this?"
in the absolute like undertow of the internet.
Yeah.
So when it came to getting into music and that sort of stuff, was No X5, was that the first band that you joined, that you started your kind of music career off in?
Oh no way.
No. Oh.
I think I was probably like 23 or 24 when we started. Like I've been in bands since I was like 14 or 15.
Oh.
Like
this is the show I love to know about.
Yeah. So I've been in bands for like, God, almost 15 years now. So when I was in high school, I was in like a grindcore, like death metal band with a couple of friends. And, it was like, I'm sure you were in bands in high school, and it didn't really like go anywhere or do anything. And like we would rehearse like in the music room at school, because that's all we could do. And we like it was really janky. Like we didn't even have a drummer. I would like write the songs on Guitar Pro, and I would just like, and this is before like, we had stuff like Steven Slate or Superior Drummer. I mean, we had them, but I couldn't afford them.
Yeah, right.
So like I would just dump the straight up, like I would convert the MIDI files to MP3s, put them on my iPod, and like just play them through the PA. And like it was and it like when we wanted to rehearse at home, our original singer, we would go to his dad was a mechanic, and on the weekends we would rehearse in like his shed, because his dad like works, he had like a mechanic shop out of home.
Yeah.
And so we had like three practice amps, one for the bass, one for the guitar, and one for his vocals. And it was like a 1/4-inch cable, and we cut the end off and soldered on an XLR to the other end so we could plug it into this guitar amp. And then he would have to run to the other side of the shed where the CD player was. He would put the CD in with the drum tracks. He would press play, and he would like sprint back around to the other side of the shed that we could like, so that we could play the song.
Oh man, that's classic.
Our bass player had no, like he didn't play bass before this. He had no, interest in doing like being in a band. Basically, he was just our friend.
Yeah.
And one day we took him to the music shop, and we sat him down with like this like a really ugly, pointy like ESP bass. It was hideous. And he's sitting down and he has no idea what he's doing. And we were just sort of like nudging him, like, oh, hey, man, like, it's your birthday soon. You should ask your mum to buy you this.
Please buy your bass.
and he did it. He bought this bass and like joined the band and then quit within 6 months. They both quit within 6 months.
Damn.
And so I reached out to the only other guy I knew. And like I said, I'm from Whyalla, so like really small place, 20,000 people.
Yep.
I reached out to the only guy I knew who could do any sort of like extreme vocals, who I had met maybe once or twice before.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I was like 16. He was like a few years older than me. He was already out of school. And I just sent him a text and I was like, hey, man, my whole band just quit. Do you want to join my band? And so like he comes over and we're messing around and like, you know, that was really fun. And then this is where Dylan enters the picture. He, you know, comes to band practice when it's just two of us. He's like, oh, hey, man, I was at the pub on the weekend. I ran into this guy I used to go to school with. He might want to play bass for us. Like, are you keen? And I was like, yeah, like, sweet. Like, get him over here.
Sick.
So, you know, the next week Dylan comes over and like he was really shy. Like he barely said a word to me. But like, I don't know. I was just like, okay, yeah, this is the guy.
Sick.
And, you know, that was sort of, and, you know, we went through a bunch of other bass players after that. But for a while, it was like, you know, me, this 16-year-old kid, like leading the band with two like grown men.
Yeah, right. Damn.
And we still didn't have a drummer at this point. Like I was committed to not even bothering with a drummer.
It's a mad like drummers, like there's no drummers in Whyalla.
I mean, I'm sure there were, but I didn't know them. And if I did, you know, I wasn't sure if they could play like blast beats, like 240 beats per minute. Yeah. But you know, we did pretty good. Like our second ever show was at Fowler's.
Sick. Classic Fowler's, the old corner stage.
yeah, exactly. And dude, like we used to like, you know, this is before I could drive, so we would like chuck all of our gear on like the State Liner bus, and
oh wow,
you know,
really?
That's how we would play shows. Yeah, like and I did that for years, man. And then, you know, after that, I was in a few other bands. I would say that No was my first, you know, real band.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Per se, but I've been in a bunch of other smaller bands as well, but they were sort of like the big few. And then, you know, I was obviously in PTL as well for a little while there.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to know more about PTL because that was sort of that was kind of going on when I was almost semi kind of going overseas. And yeah, there was a few like songs and stuff that you guys put out, which was really cool. And you love is there like a deal with like the purple? Like, because there was purple all over like all the releases and that kind of stuff. It's awesome to have like a color scheme. And I was like, damn, there's a lot of purple here. Like, does the P in PTL, is that stand for purple or something?
Well, it was funny because after I left, they dropped two more songs and they were called Magenta and Violet. And I'm like, you know, the purple thing was, that was, you know, it was pretty full on, but then to put out a song called Magenta and a song called Violet was pretty like on the nose, I thought.
Yeah, it's like,
but,
you guys
yeah,
really
PTL is
like
another interesting one. Yeah, well, that was all Lane. Like Lane was pretty hands on when it came to all the visuals and stuff like that. I mean, I worked on the couple of videos that we did.
Yeah,
but and that's another thing a lot of people might not realize is, you know, the whole PTL lore goes a lot deeper. Like PTL have been around for 12 years this year.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that either. I saw there was a post that you made, like obviously a year or so ago now, where it was around about the 11-year mark or the 10-year mark or something. And I was like, wow, this is like the first time I'm actually even hearing about you guys, because obviously it's through you. And yeah, I was very stunned about that. Were you in that band from the get-go, or did you kind of come in afterwards?
Yeah, so PTL is a bit of a weird one. So they were like my first band in that originally it was just Riley and Lane. And so Riley was on vocals, Lane was on guitar. There was no drummer, no bass player, and they would just play the drum tracks. They actually played their first ever show at my house.
Oh, nice.
in 2012. And you know, there was a lot, like there was so many people coming and going from that band. I think I've been in PTL like 3 times officially.
Wow. Okay, that's
Um,
crazy.
like, and it got stupid. Like, we put out this album in like 2016, I think.
Mm.
Like we've deleted it off everything now, but that was like, we sort of had this collective decision, like, yeah, okay, we're gonna take this really seriously and we're gonna do this
Mm.
properly. But it was a mess. Like, Luke, our bass player, he dropped out of school to be in PTL full time.
Oh, dreams, absolute dreams.
and like and like this is back when, you know the band wasn't even based in Adelaide. This is like when they were still like a Port Pirie band.
Oh wow. Okay. Shit.
um yeah, it was so stupid. Like, the album was really good. There's a lot of really
Mm.
cool songs on it, but
Yeah.
we just didn't know what we were doing. Like, we were all pretty young, and I'm a couple years older than those guys as well. So say I was like 19, 20
Mm.
when I joined the band the first time around. Those guys were still like I said, Luke was still in school.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
he was still in like year 11 or year 12 when, I came
Yeah.
around.
Right.
But yeah, and then so, we like it was so ridiculous. Like, it was almost like some kind of monster type thing. There was so much tension in the band and so much stuff going on, and like, it was, really ridiculous in hindsight, because we had no idea what we were doing, but we sort of
Yeah.
said, you know what, this is putting too much strain on us as friends, let's just call it.
Mm.
And so, the band sort of went quiet for a little while, and then, out of nowhere, like 4 years later, Lane just sent these songs to the group chat, and he's like, do you guys want to get PTL off the ground again? And like, the songs were different to what we were like a deathcore band before.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And so he sent these new songs through that were more like, Loathe, like spirit boxy type stuff.
Hell yeah. Nice.
And
Good
we were
shit.
like, oh shit, like, this is crazy. Like, yeah, let's do it. And then that was the what's the EP called? Loam. That was the Loam
Yeah.
EP.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
one with all the purple. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's cool, man. Like, that's a real fucking cool story. It's a testament for the band going for so long. I'd love to ask you, because obviously you've been in bands for, like, as you said, around 15 years or so, and now obviously you're doing more solo stuff. But because you've been in bands for so long, I would love to ask you, like, if anyone listens to this episode who is in bands or are starting bands or whatever, like, what would you say would be a really good thing for them to know getting into this sort of like industry, or getting into bands, that you've personally learned in your 15 years as for doing this?
become an electrician.
Yeah.
No, if I'm being serious, take your time. There's no rush to get anything done. It's a really slow moving process, a really slow industry. Well, the industry moves fast, but in your little bubble in the industry is going to move really slowly. And don't let that knock you back. Be very careful with what you do, but also be prepared to take risks. And if you're not enjoying it anymore, stop doing it. Like at the end of the day, like, as far as I'm concerned, sure, it's a business, it's an industry, whatever, but like, at the end of the day, like, have fun with it. Like, if you're going to put in that kind of effort and those kind of hours, like, really just take the time to enjoy yourself. Which is, obviously easier said than done. But
Yep.
I have a feeling that anyone who's looking to get into, the music industry probably has, they probably know enough, before they go in. But, there's, and I'm sure you know this, there's that weird gap between, doing it as a hobbyist and starting to take it a bit more seriously. And that is like probably the most difficult part of it, I would say, is getting through that transition stage.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, like, it depends on how like, professional, I suppose, as well, that you want to take it, because sometimes, with releases and that kind of stuff that come with it, you want things to look their best, you want the music to sound the best, and it's like, well, in that case, it's money that you have to put into it. So it's almost like a big investment that you have to make into all the stuff that you're doing. And so, yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
also a really big thing. Is like, if you want this to be the best that you want it to be, you want it to look as professional as you possibly can, then you can't be afraid to kind of dosh out the dollars to kind of make that happen, or even put in the extra time or effort to make sure that everything is sounding real crisp or sounding really, really good. I also think that's a really good insight as well. It's good. We're almost like music veterans now, I feel. Like we've been in doing this for so long. Now we're just like, we're not like the old guys of the music scene yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's funny you bring that up because you kind of do see like the generations pass, and it happens a lot quicker than it does anywhere else in the world.
Mm,
Like uh, I mean, I think of bands from like 10 years ago, and it's
mm,
like you don't see those guys anymore, or
no.
not many of them, and it's
Mm.
and it's kind of because it doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
No, no,
But
it
it's
really
just
doesn't.
it's interesting how time passes a bit differently here. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely understand that. It's very strange, especially because like I mean, obviously 10 years ago it was like almost when we were starting off doing this sort of thing. That's when we started doing like, shows at the Crank and whatever. And it's cool to see who's still kind of around doing stuff and who's kind of not doing stuff. And it's weird. Like it's just one of those things. And but then there's so many new people also coming in doing stuff as well. It's just like it's a bit of a transition, but it's enjoyable to see all the same. So with No X5, you were obviously like guitarist, singer, frontman. With PTL, you were just a guitarist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like how
correct.
did that sort of switch with the transition of being like the frontman to now being like just the guitarist, not having, I guess, as much responsibility as being the frontman of the band?
Well, it's interesting because I'm like, first and foremost, I'm a guitar player. Like I've been playing guitar for longer than I've been
Mm,
singing. And I've sort of been primarily a guitar player for most of my career, but it's one of those things where I've sort of always done like backing vocals in other bands
mm.
and stuff. And I mean, I've played guitar and sang in as well, but I found that I don't really like. I love singing and I love playing guitar, and I hate doing them
Yeah, right.
together.
Okay.
So when I joined PTL, I was like, I just want to play guitar. I just want to hang back. I want to do my own
Sick.
thing. And now with Fast Company, I'm sort of doing the opposite, where it's like, I'm recording all the guitars and
Mm.
stuff, but I just want to
Yeah,
sing.
100%.
I don't want to have to mess around with like two things at
Yeah,
once.
definitely. I've always been really like admirable of people who can play guitar and sing at the same time. Like I've tried it. Even like when I was in Sunsets playing bass, I'd try and do it on bass and I was like, man, this is really hard. And this is just the bass. Like,
Yeah, it's kind of, you kind of need that like drummer's coordination to do it.
mm,
Like, and not that I'm a good drummer by any means, but like, I mean, I guess in NX5 it was different because I was sort of trading lead vocals with Luke,
mm.
and so we could sort of swap like lead guitar and rhythm guitar and lead vocals and backing vocals. But I think to sing and play guitar full time is like really its own art
Yeah.
form, which is, yeah,
No.
why I had so much fun in PTL, like being able to just play guitar and and yeah, I haven't really had a whole lot of experience as just a lead
Mm.
vocalist, like outside of the studio
Yep.
anyway. So, and that's kind of something I wanted to try with Fast Company.
Exactly
So
right.
I'm, looking forward to, yeah, when I can get into a point of doing some live stuff, and being able to, you know, just focus on
Mm.
singing. That's something I'm really looking forward
100%,
to.
man. I'd love to obviously dive into Fast Company because that was a nice surprise that you shared with the world. I think a lot of people, especially those that didn't really know anything about it, took that as a very pleasant surprise. Seeing like, obviously you coming out with a brand new solo thing that you're obviously onto now. So take me through Fast Company and sort of your creative idea behind it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been into, like writing pop songs and doing all that
Mm.
sort of stuff. And I actually started, writing and demoing these songs like a long time ago, like probably as far back as like
Mm.
2021. I think is when I wrote, like Take the Money and
Mm.
Run and a couple of the other songs that will be
Hell
coming
yeah.
out. But yeah, it was just something I sort of wanted to do and just to be able to have fun with it and, have a new approach when it came to music. I mean, and like also working with a producer has been a
Mhm.
big thing. Like I've been working with Zach from Color and Shade. They're like a
Uh-huh.
Melbourne band. Um, that was something else I really wanted to try because I've always sort of self-produced stuff and or like with my bandmates or whatever. But actually going in and having someone who produces music for a
Mm.
living and getting their like ears and eyes on it was like a huge eye opener for me. When I first got to working with Zach, obviously he's based in
Mhm.
Melbourne, so we did like I sent him the demos. I said, here's the song. I just want to see what you can do with it and where you can take it. And a lot of it was in the
Mhm.
production, to be like totally honest. But like we did like I think it was 2 or 3 days, just like in a setting like this, just over
Mm.
Discord, where he just dumped all my stems into Cubase and was adding all this extra stuff and saying, oh, we should shorten this bit and cut this and do all that. Like seeing the way he worked and just it was all like the 1%, not even 1% of things, like 0.5% of things that he was doing that really like brought the track from like here all the way
Yeah,
up here.
absolutely.
And I think that has changed the way that I approach songwriting,
Okay.
going forward as well. Just seeing how somebody like that
Okay.
works. And, I had never really done any sort of, or never really put any music like that out before. And he had done quite a bit with other
Mm.
artists. So, like I sort of knew he was the guy for the job when I
Mhm.
discovered him. And yeah, it's just, it's taken the whole process from being like a bedroom thing to being something that's a bit more serious. And, as far as I'm concerned, like Zach's part of the
Yeah.
band. Like it wouldn't be Fast Company without his
No,
input. So
100%. Like it's
having him on board has been
yeah,
massive.
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel the same with Jack Hartley, who's the producer for Kazaran. Like he's part of the band completely because
Oh, I
yeah,
love Jack. Oh, he's the
yeah, like
best.
he's especially for his knowledge of the metalcore that we like. He's just it's all the same stuff that he grew up listening
Mm,
to that he really likes. He knows just like we do, like where the spot is where we keep it nostalgic before getting too modernized. There's like a wall that we won't cross into too much modernization because we like that nostalgic metalcore feel from the early days and he knows exactly where that is. So working with him for us
mm.
is an absolute blessing. And so it's like, when it comes to the same sort of thing, having someone there that understands your music really well and brings out the best in it, they are completely a part of the band. And it's really cool that, especially with Fast Company, that you've taken a different direction in the genre of music. Because obviously, No X5 was very kind of, I guess, a mix of metal and rock vibes together, and then PTL was very much metal, and now this is sort of like, as you say, like old pop sort of stuff. And even from the first song that you did release, it's just it's the vibes are very different, but it just sounds really kind of professional, niche, and just it's very catchy as well. And for a song that you obviously wrote a while ago now, for it to come out in the way that it's come out, it's come out in its best form, I think.
Awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, like I said earlier, like take your time with it. Like I've known I was going to do this for a really long
Mm.
time, but I like to think I had the sense to, pick my moment just right to put something out and you know, uh give it all the space it needed and all the attention it needed before I threw it out
Exactly,
there.
and as we were speaking about before, with like the professionality of releases and that kind of stuff, it sounds incredibly professional. You've worked with a producer. You got photos from Josh McCauley, which is the best photographer to get photos from because he is a professional. He's an
Yes.
absolute professional, and the green is just like it's awesome, man. I haven't. There's not a lot of green that I've seen in other people's music releases, so going for the green is a perfect way to start standing out.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that because the day I put it out was the same day that the new Charlie XCX album
Right.
came
Okay.
out. And I don't know if you've seen the album, but it's like the exact same green.
really?
And everyone was hitting me up saying,
no.
yeah, look, I'll send
Yes,
you a
please
photo
do.
after this. It's like, it's pretty
Oh
scary.
man.
Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned that because, yeah, like now that I think about it, I haven't seen a lot of
No.
green. But yeah, I think it works well. And like that was sort of the thing, like, take the money and run, like, money,
Yeah.
green. Not really here in Australia, but like it's kind of like a universal thing. So that's sort of where I took that
Yeah,
from.
money's a really fascinating thing. When I was over in London, they were phasing out like the paper notes. So it was all like I don't know what the material is they use money for money for now, but their notes are kind of white and then they have just like a bit of a color, like sort of around it. It's not like a complete color. But when you come back, like to here after being in a place like that and you see our notes, it just looks like toy money. It's like bright red, bright blue, and bright yellow, and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. It's just, it doesn't even seem like money anymore. It's so strange, man.
Yeah, and it's weird. And then you go to the States, you get like a dollar bill in the States, and it's like it's like a hotel room Bible. Like you can just tear it
Yeah.
so easily.
I haven't been to the States yet, but I'm really keen to go there just because I mean it's such a rarity for us, especially people of our age, to get like green bills because obviously the $100 note is the only one that's green. So I'm keen to go to a country where like I could have just green bills in my hand all the time and be like, oh my God, this is what it feels like. Because it's such a rarity when you get
Yeah.
$100 note, you're like, oh wow, I feel like royalty right now. I feel like I've got money.
Yeah.
I'd love to jump into the music video because it's so cool, man. Like based off of like a video game, it's so innovative, such a great idea. When the song kicks in, you have like your first note that you sing and it goes to that sort of spot. It just reminded me of just Matt Hardy version 1 when he come out the old computer screen. That's the exact vibe I got from the first moment I saw it.
Oh, that's so funny. Because when I was doing the video, like I was trying to think of stuff like that to incorporate into it. I wish I'd thought of Matt Hardy version
Yeah.
1 because that is like that would have been so perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, like doing that video, like it kind of happened by accident. I mean, I had known I had wanted to do a music video where it was kind of like grainy and stuttery and had that sort of look to it, but I actually didn't plan to do it for Take the Money and Run. Take the Money and Run was going to be a lot more plain to begin with. And then it was when so doing that video, that was before I had like a nice camera and lights and stuff like that. So I rented all that
Oh, right. Okay.
stuff. I rented like this 4K like camera. I rented like the green screen, the tripod, the lights, everything. And so I was a little inexperienced using, gear that was like that kind of professional level. And when I got back home, like all the footage looked great, but I had like fucked up the lighting on a couple of shots. You can mainly see it in the shots of like Jake playing drums. And so like the green screen like wasn't lit perfectly even. So there's like, if you watch the video back, you can see it like in my hair a lot as well. Like some of the keying just didn't quite come out right. And I thought, well, renting all that gear cost me like $500. Renting the space cost me X amount. Like that was an expensive for me, video to make. And I couldn't just throw away all the footage. So I thought, well, I've always wanted to do a sort of like an FMV like looking video. Like the main thing I thought of was what's that game? Night Trap.
Okay.
I've never played it,
either,
but like
but still.
it's it's like this classic like 90s game. And I don't really know how to explain it, but it's kind of like an interactive movie more than it is a game. But because it was on like a console in the 90s, like the video was all really compressed and it has that sort of look to it. And I thought, well, if I can run with that. And then so I took the footage and I opened it all up in Photoshop and made those like borders. So like the switches and stuff, and like when Joe's playing guitar and it's got like the buttons for the chords he's playing and
that
stuff.
was so cool.
I made that all. all in
Oh,
Photoshop.
hell yeah.
Thank you. And like, yeah, like the drums and like the tab for when Sean's playing bass, like I was like, well, I can really lean into this. Like, I don't have to abandon all this footage. I don't have to shoot the video again. I can just like run with what I've got. And it's like something I wanted to do anyway. So it was more of a means of like getting creative with what I had. I mean, now I've learned my lesson and I will never light a green screen like that again. But at the same time, it kind of really worked in my favor because I think had I gone with the original plan for the video where it was like, going to be really clean and really like, still bright and it still would have looked good and everything, it wouldn't have had the same like personality, I don't think.
No, I mean, as I said, like the way it looks at the moment with just everything, it's just, yeah, it's so creative. And I think it's really cool. It really speaks like, it also speaks to like, like even your hobbies, just like doing gaming stuff. Like I personally haven't seen a video like that. I can't even say that I have, but it was just when I first saw it, I was like, this is really cool. I really enjoy that they put the time in to do it in this kind of nature. And again, it's one of those things where like, obviously it costs you X amount of money and so much time and stuff, but personally, I feel like it came out really well. But then even if like with those little imperfections, I suppose that you have picked out, that they're there. So then the next time you do it, it's just like, all right, well, now I know that this is there, blah, 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 whatever. So like the next idea or whatever, I guess will be even better than the one that's just come out. So yeah, man, it's a great way to kickstart a brand new project.
Awesome, man. Thank you for that. And yeah, like you said, it's one of those things where like from start to finish, it's all just like a learning experience. Like, I, as much as I want to sit here and say, oh, I sat down and I had to make every detail perfect and I had to make this look like that and everything had to be right. Like, it's also another thing to, be able to learn to, just take the imperfections as they are and like I said, just lean into them rather than to dwell on them. Like, I know what it's like, as an artist to beat yourself up over minor things that, to be honest, most people probably won't even notice.
Definitely.
But like you take it so personally because it's yours, right? But being able to run with that and just not worry about it too much is like, has been really kind of, it's taken a lot of stress off of it for me.
Definitely.
And to hear your feedback and say that it's like it looked really good and all that, like that's awesome. Like I'm stoked to hear that. And I'm gonna try and be a little less critical going into the next video that I do.
Yeah, man, definitely. Well, this has been such a fucking awesome conversation, man. I've really enjoyed talking to you about all of your music stuff, all the creative stuff that you've been doing. As I said, you've got your hands on something really awesome with Fast Company. I can't wait to see what comes out next and what more creative ideas that you have to put into your songs going forward. So it's really, really exciting. And I'm happy to see that you're still loving what you're doing after so long of obviously doing it. And yeah, it's just fantastic to see. So to all my listeners, please do listen to Take the Money and Run. Get behind Declan, get behind Fast Company, because as I said, the time is going into it, the effort is going into it. And, for someone who's been doing it for so long, you and me included, people who've been doing this for so long, to still put in the same amount of high personality and high professional effort into releases and into projects like this, it really sort of shows through their character that they love what they do with this. They get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And they just want to fucking create and just put stuff forward, man. So kudos to you for putting this forward. And I really do wish you all the best in the rest of your musical journey.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this episode and also seeing what you do next.
Hell yeah, man. We'll have to do this again sometime for sure.
Really give a shit. When's the last time our conversations went? I don't even know who you are anymore. Cut the shit, call it quits, leave it at the door.
Thank you so much for joining me for the conversation with Declan of Fast Company. Follow him on the socials, listen to his newest single, Take the Money and Run, and support his music journey. Thank you again for supporting this podcast. A follow on the socials, a listen on Spotify, and a view on YouTube goes so far, and I appreciate every one of them. Again, grab your tickets to RCW Heavy is the Crown this Saturday and see some of the incredible professional wrestling talent in Australia. and be sure to join me next week for a new conversation with a new guest here on Chasm Converses.